Facetteers, what's going on, man? It's your boy DeMarcus, and this is another episode of the Life of a Multifacet. And I actually just completed a 24-hour fast. And so right now, my goal is to get to 72 and 96 hours. This fast actually felt really smooth so far. I said felt. It feels really smooth so far. Like I've been locked in and being productive as well too. So yeah, this is actually dope. So I'm going ahead and recording the episode on this as I'm doing the fast. I've done the highest amount of time that I got up to was like 96 hours, which was nuts. That was the previous like intentional fast that I did. And um, for this fast in particular, I just wanted to focus on like I typically do it from a clearing my mind, clearing my system out. Like you could say it's a spiritual thing, right? In the past, I've also done it where it's definitely for weight to be able to cut down on some weight, but I feel like over time, though you are dropping weight, and that can be a big part of it. For me, it's been more so of a way to know that my mind's clear and also clear out my system because when you're dry fast, I think it's one day of dry fasting equals about 3 days of a water fast, and so it takes about 72 hours of dry fasting for your system to completely clear out, and so for myself, at times I'll have those zones where I'm just like, let me just clear my system out. I know I've been eating a certain type of way. I know that even as far as for my mind, it may feel a bit foggy. So let me just go ahead and push myself to do a really nice fast. Now, it might sound kind of productive, but you're probably like, okay, well, if you're pushing yourself to clear your mind, why do you have so much that's going on in your schedule, DeMarcus? But that's where I look at it as the mind sharpening itself because yes, you're clearing your mind, but you're allowing yourself to focus on the things that you need to get done. And so you have a clearer mind whenever you're fasting, and it allows you to, I feel, focus more on those different objectives that you have. And so when I think about my list of things I need just to do today, let's see. I'll read some of these off. So um let's see. I'm trying to make sure that I'll be writing in cursive, but my light ain't on, so I can't even really see what I said. Okay, so one of my first things was to start a newsletter mashup list. I haven't done that yet, so that's actually going to be a task for the night. Um, Another one was complete. Let's see, complete complete 3-day Bible plan. So for some of the Bible plans that I have that I'm doing, um, they're like multiple days, but I wanted to go ahead and complete 3 days of the plan. So in a sense, I would be ahead of the plan. So I want to make sure that I was locked in there. So I did that. I actually read two different plans today. So that's kind of adding on to that. I'm supposed to do two 15-minute meditation sessions. I did a 15-minute one earlier. I'm supposed to pray 3 times a day. I've already prayed twice, and so I'm going to knock those two out um, here within the next couple hours. My journal today. I did my calisthenics workout today. I I edited one keloid video so far, a new keloid video. I need to do another before the night's over. Let's see what else I got to do. Let's see. Okay, create a YouTube drop schedule. So I'm actually going to work on that here in a few minutes. Outline my content rollout. That's going to be along the same lines, but that's going to help me with more of the different platforms. Read 30 pages of Relentless. I actually just read 16 pages of it so far, so we're more than halfway there. Complete fast. I just completed my fast at 9:20. Actually, I was a couple minutes when I got on this call or got onto my podcast. I was a couple minutes before I had actually completed the fast, but it's 9:21 right now. We started our fast at 9:20, and so we passed that. Let's see. I repeated the Bible day plan. Got that done. Record two podcast episodes, so this is going to be one, and then I'm going to record another. 160 ounces of water. That's something that I'm working on. I have about 80 ounces left, so we're gonna hit that before the end of the night. Write or type a positive note to self. So I actually wrote down 29 things that I was appreciative of myself for, or proud of myself for. And then I went back again and I wrote a letter to myself talking about the really just talking to myself like, hey, DeMarcus, I'm proud of you for this. DeMarcus, appreciative of who you are. Like really writing a note as if it was like to someone else, but to myself. So I thought that was dope. Like I was really locked in, and it was really nice. I'm gonna come back and speak about that, but so far we've completed one, two, three, four, five, six. So we've completed about six out of what this is 10, 12 things, and so the rest we're gonna complete here soon. But yeah, so that's where we've been at when it comes to the fasting. My goal this time was to say to Marcus, like, let's intentionally fast, but also too, like, let's make this week one where you really locked in and you really get in your bag for yourself. Because oftentimes I will say when it comes to my planner, like scheduling things out, I I can do a good amount of things on my list, but oftentimes I'm not doing like a high amount. So meaning like I usually get anywhere between if I have 12, I probably would say I'm usually get 50 to 75% of the things done, but I need to shoot more for that higher 80 to 90% range, 100% range, because oftentimes the things that I have on my planner are a lot of stuff that has to do with my brands and my goals. And so the more I can be locked in on that, the more I can be intentional about where I put my time and then also the goals and stuff that I set for myself. But I'm super excited. I'm super excited for my growth and how I continue to be able to push through. Also, just this time for me has just been one where I've had to learn to master my mind in a different way, and I've had to learn to instill discipline in a different type of way. So you even heard me pausing earlier when I was reading through the different tasks that I have on my planner, because as I'm speaking it to you all, I'm also thinking about, okay, like what exactly have we done today to make sure we put in the right time towards that? When we were doing it, were we actually doing it not as just a checklist item, but something that's actually beneficial towards our growth? And for each of these things, it was. And the thing you have to realize is that whenever you're taking a little bit of time each day, or taking a little bit of time towards each task, you're putting yourself in a position to where you're saying, hey, I want to better myself. Like, for instance, you could be someone that does a meditation, and it doesn't have to always be a meditation where you're sitting there, you have music playing, and then you're going into this like crazy spiritual type of lane. It could be one where you're just sitting there with yourself. Like today, I was sitting with myself. I took a nap. And then I woke up and I set my timer to 15 minutes. I said to Marcus, let's just sit here and just think about life. Like, let's get all our feelings out. Let's express ourselves in a certain type of way, or let's think about how we would express ourselves. Let's think about how we're feeling. And I literally was just sitting there thinking about life, thinking about things that were frustrating, things that were positive, and just allowing myself just to sit in that for that 15 minutes. And yeah, that was good for me. And oftentimes when you just give yourself a little bit of time, you find different ways to get into that bag. Hey, later tonight for my meditation, I may get into a stretch zone. Typically, like when I do meditation, it can be for me like actually stretching, um, releasing certain types of energy from my body and just allowing myself to relax. There's different ways in which I may meditate. It may be journaling, right? And I did journaling earlier, but finding different ways to get into your to dive deeper into your own mindset, finding ways to be able to express yourself is just one of the most beautiful things. And once you start to do that consistently and it becomes more than just a checklist item, as I was saying earlier, you find it to be super satisfying. You find it to be something that's just like exciting. It's something that gets you going. It's something where the same ways which I preach hobbies, it allows you to get into a bag where you don't have to have other people or depend on certain things, or to depend on certain people. It allows you to be able to deal with your inner self. And when I just think about the discipline I've been able to instill in myself, it's been different. Like, and because of what I've had to go through, it's pushed me in a direction to say, Demarcus, you know that you're worth more. You want to be great. You want to be able to live a certain type of way. You want to be able to impact the world in a certain way. You want to impact certain people in a certain type of way. You're going to have to dive deeper because your message can't be small. And that's going to be an episode as well where I've noticed that my message can't is not meant to be small. And my message and the way that I speak, the way in which I move, the way in which I show up isn't just meant to be in a room where I'm just talking about mediocre type of things. Like I love the way in which I'm able to impact folks. I love the way in which I'm able to talk about my life and be able to help others with theirs as I'm going through my life situations. Like I love being able to show up from a faith standpoint, but be real and raw where you live in that life. You know what I'm saying? Like I made a post today. I actually had one of my daily thoughts that I posted in. For me at first, like I'm real raw when I go into to posting certain things because for me it's all about actually a lot of things because for me it's about not sugarcoating it. It's about being real. And oftentimes, especially from a faith standpoint, when we think about being like real and raw, a lot of people just want to throw Bible verses out there, just want to say you should do this and do that, but people don't want to talk about themselves. And that's one thing that I can respect my father for because for him, he's someone that posts Bible quotes every day on Facebook, right? But if you talk to him, he's going to give you real life game about like things that he's experienced. He's going to talk about his life in a way where he's not afraid of someone spilling his information or whatever because he's had to live that and he's always been himself. So as he continues to move forward, that's just the older part of his journey and the things that he's experienced. He's gonna keep it real with you in the way in which he sees the world nowadays. So the difference is that when you do things in a way to where you're being able to speak on your experiences, you're being able to talk about how you're showing up, it allows people to understand and feel that authenticity. And oftentimes we've seen, especially from a social media standpoint, probably even before social media, where so many people are telling you how to live, but it's not resembling that in their lives. And so I've always respected the ones where they could talk about life and talk about the things that they feel that you should be doing or this is how you move, but they're doing it as well too. And again, that's not to even say that the people that are talking in those ways are always following up. No. But when they show up as far as being able to talk about themselves and be honest about where they've had failures or where they've succeeded, they can be real and they're not trying to create this flawed type of imagery. So I've always respected that. So I'm gonna read to y'all real quick what I posted. So I do these Demarcus's daily thoughts on Instagram throughout the week, and I wanted to make one where it was like I love being able to put myself at the forefront. And the reason being is because I don't like to create messages where I'm just telling others what to do or I'm calling out other people. Like, no, Demarcus likes to put up the mirror so people can understand that it's not just talk. Like he's had to go through situations in his life. And the reason he's sharing this is because of what he's had to deal with. But it's also keeping it real for the people out there that love to hide and talk about what anybody else is doing or any and everybody else is doing, like it's to really call those folks out as well too, because how can we live in a society where so many people love to talk about what others do, but they never put themselves in the limelight. They never put themselves in the spotlight. They never want to hold themselves accountable, but it's so easy to talk about what any and everybody else is doing. So I'm going to read this to you. It's Demarcus's daily thoughts. Some people know how to put on a hellified some people know how to put on hellified performances. Laugh my ass off. Why not just be you and love the person you're becoming? Continue. I'll keep it 100. I got my own flaws and demons for sure. I'm not perfect by any means. I've made mistakes. I've done shit I had to check myself for. But one thing about me, at least I own mine, and I'm always proud of that. I'm not hiding behind fake holiness or fronting like I'm spotless. I've had to look in that mirror many times to keep it real with Demarcus. I've seen women speak on God and spirituality, sharing verses, affirmations, energy quotes, or whatever aligns with their belief system, but they let men go raw, smoke, drink, wrestle with anger, keep a sneaky link nearby, etc. I've seen men speak on God and spirituality, posting scriptures, preaching discipline, claiming healing or divine purposes, but still lie for ego, chase sex more than growth, smoke, drink, disrespect women, and judge the next man while hiding their own mess. Cool, live your life, but don't act like you above somebody else doing the same. We all got vices. I got mine, you got yours, but don't put yourself on a pedestal while pointing at the next person's flaws. At the end of the day, being human is messy. Ain't nobody squeaky clean. The only difference is some of us are real about it, and some of y'all performing for likes and approval. If that stings reading this, hey, it might just be because the shoe fits. Promote diligence, daily thoughts with the markets. So this goes into what I've talked about throughout the whole day. We talk about like clearing your mind, one, that's the whole thing as far as going into fasting and being able just to clear your mind, your body, and your spirit. But then it also goes into setting your days up to where you can be very strict in how you want to approach the day and being real with yourself. And then that transitioned me into talking about my daily thoughts because Then when we talk about how we have to move in these different type of ways, we got to be real with ourselves. And then oftentimes people want to talk about what everybody else is doing, but they don't want to talk about their own life. That's why I'm talking about, for me, when it goes into fasting and then having to structure out my days, there's a there's a link there because I'm giving you all the different things that I put on my list for today. Have I been have I gotten everything done so far? No. But I have told y'all about there's different points in my life where I've had a list of stuff that I plan to do and I didn't follow through with it. I'm talking about all these things that I plan to do because I want to better myself. And I'm also even doing this podcast to show people like, hey, Demarcus is going through this process as well, just like any of my other podcast episodes. But the point of even posting that was when I do my daily thoughts is to keep it real. Like we all have different parts of our life to where we're growing and developing. And when we think about who we are as an individual, we are what we allow ourselves to be. We are going to be a representative of whatever type of company we allow ourselves to show up for. You know what I'm saying? Like whoever I'm going to be the CEO of whatever company I allow myself to be within my life. And so I share stuff like the fasting. I share stuff like this is probably the first time I've done an episode where I talk about what I'm doing throughout my day because I like people to feel that. I know there's other people out there that are going through similar situations. They're trying to figure themselves out. They're trying to better themselves. So they're creating a schedule. They're creating ways to be able to tap more into their mindset. And they feel similar to the way that I do. And so that's why when it comes to my daily thoughts, I'm not trying to tell people, this is what guys that you had to do in the Bible. Like we have a spiritual talk and we're talking about God, and then I have somebody that I'm speaking with, we're talking about verses and stuff in the Bible, I will guide them in that way. But I can't tell you what you should and shouldn't be doing because at the end of the day, there's things in my life that I shouldn't be doing. Now, if you're fully off track, you disrespecting people, you doing some outlandish stuff, and that's where I got to come in as a friend or somebody that cares about you and be like, no, we can't do that. But when it comes to vices, when it comes to not feeling that you're at a certain level, when it comes to working on yourself, listen, we are all trying to get there. And I love being able to put myself in a space to where I can say, hey, this is how DeMarcus feels, but I'm no different than anybody else. And there's only, I may not have like a whole lot of people that may have liked to share that or whatever, but that's not the point because when you speak like that, a lot of people are going to probably feel called out because there's so many people that love talking and love being able to be um, a voice for what other people ain't doing or what everybody else got going on. But when you really got to look into that mirror, when you really got to stop for a second and reflect on what you got going on, which it ain't been working for you, a lot of people have a lot of work they got to do. And a lot of people are going to have a ton of regrets, and a lot of people are going to be truly upset with how much time that they've let pass by because they never put things in play. Today is a challenge. Like most people frown upon fasting because it's something they can't get in their mind to say, I can't go without food for a certain period of time. I say, you know what? I'm going to push myself for a fast. Hey, things have been frustrating, but you know what? I'm still going to challenge my mind even more because I'm going to tell myself that, you know what? I don't need to eat crazy. I don't need to do all this other stuff. Like, let's clear our mind and let's get locked in. Let's put on our planner. Let's have let's have more things than we typically would schedule because let's push ourselves during a time where I can only depend on my mind and my body to get through. I can't depend on food. I can't depend on getting an energy source from somewhere else. I got to depend on my spirit. I got to depend on my faith. I got to depend on myself in order to push through. So if I can do that and be real with myself the same way in which I was in the message, I'm going to be way ahead of the game. But the biggest thing is being able to do it consistently. So that's why I've been able to do fast over time. I said, okay, for this today, like let's actually lock in. So really, I freeballed this episode. I didn't even know what I was going to speak about at first, but I believe I'm going to title this somewhere around like connecting with your mind, body, and spirit, but challenging yourself and being able just to be real about like life in a way to talk about what you're going through and talk about like the challenges that you're experiencing because I wouldn't even say the challenges you're experiencing, like pushing yourself to level up because oftentimes when you don't really have as much to work with, you got to find ways to really dive deeper into your bag. And so that's what I've been doing today. And that's what I'm going to set up the rest of my week for. So I'm going to figure out what I'm going to title this. But I feel like even just the episode, like I found a way to bring it all together because there's got to be people that experience things in this type of way. But one thing I was going to talk about is like the letter that I wrote, the positive letter and stuff that I wrote to myself. So I'm going to have another episode where I did that, where I do that. But it's your boy Demarcus. This is another episode of the Life of a Multifaceted. Stay locked in with your boy. We're gonna have more of these rolling out. I appreciate y'all. Peace.